Guess what day it is? Do you like the new music? Do you like the new music that StreamYard's using? Let's see what Friday night Sci-Fi Nation. Wise guys. Hey, wise guys. Wise guys. Streaming over wise guys. How dare I? Choke me out. Creature feature. Mansion of the Dune, 1976. Ooh. John's Longbox. Oh, sorry, John. My hand's so low. Marvel United to top of the Kingpin. Don't know what all that's about. Luke Kowalski screaming. Janet from Another Planet. Oh, the Friday Night Shit Show. Oh, sorry, Janet. How about an emoji? A little wave emoji, huh? How about that? Looking good. There we go. We'll get the drawing here in a moment, but I wanted to see who the competition is. Mad Ruth. Oh, Mad Ruth. Mad Ruth. And Sim. Yeah. And our friend Jason Sandberg. Give them a little wave and a hello. Friday nights on. But that's all right. I've got 0 viewers at this point. I'm showing. So what does it matter? You know, what does it matter? I'm, continuing my draw streams regardless. Mark Levin exposing the failures of corporate media. Oh yeah. Okay. That's auto rewind from earlier. Yeah, I've been missing that. Raging Golden Eagle. Movie Buff 1. Okay. Friday Night Trash Cast. Eric's Insanely Stupid Lies. Awesome number 3 launch. Cyber Frog. I had to click on this just to read all the title. Cyber Frog Dark Harvest Closeout. He's actually got a pop-up about, hitting that like button. 700, not a bad idea. I'll tell these, congrats on the closeout. Now, if he can read that and all, that chat's moving. He has a guest on there. Caleb, wild shit karaoke. Oh crap! I got to go in there and tell him ahoy. He's wearing a captain's hat. 3 shades to the wind. I'll even leave a like for him. Hey, come on. Oh man, he looks like he's having fun. Ahoy, Captain. And back to mine. Gable Penny shot skirting in here saying evening. Hello. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And hopefully somebody will come in here and help me draw. And then I will pin, not peg. And I wasn't thinking of peg, or it didn't even say peg. Jack Stafford says hello over there on cable to Caleb's stream. Okay. pin that thing so people can come in here and draw, hopefully, and be productive. I just got out of the shower and looking stunning and brave. I don't know. Everything's opposite here. Never try and comb your hair on one of these cameras. A fresh copy. Even got to start on drawing. More than start on a few. I'm going to send that to Cable. Sticker art, concept art. That one's yours. Because he likes the bog. 10 years of bog. How many people out there have a figure that they've been, or a character they've been drawing for 10 years? How many? Shadowmare Comics contacted me and asked me how I was doing out of the blue. I don't know if I was Shadowmare Live. Let's see. Oh, Shadowmare. Yeah. Okay. That's what Luke was working on. Okay. That was huzzah. Yeah. Score. Yeah. I did that one. I didn't date it. That was the one. Sticker art number 1 to Gable Bog. I didn't even date it. Jeez. All right, Paul. What's going on, Paul? Did I ever pin that link? I think I did. Paul, you're welcome to come in here, whether you draw or not. You're always welcome. Yes, I did pin the link there. It's a wonderful Friday night, and so we might as well be productive. I've had my nap. I've had my shower. Having my coffee. Giving her treats and let her out. So I'm good to go. Maybe I'll add some white highlights to the director there, his glasses. And that'll set him off. I really thought about putting a light color here. Welcome to the show, Ethan Von Monsky. I bet you've never been introduced like that. And you are on mute, my friend, so we cannot hear your hearty chuckle.
No, hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm competing against the big dogs. Dark
really?
Harvest, Ethan, Friday night. I've had my nap as old men do. Do you nap, Paul? I mean, not that you're old.
Well,
you're younger than me. I think you're younger than me.
I think I'm not. I may not be.
Okay, I turned 60 in November.
I turned 60 in June, so I've got you by about 5 months.
Maybe I was clinging on in the womb, wanting to stay there. What's been up? What's Wonder
Not
Twin
much,
Powers activate?
I got something to show you. This is very old. I was in the basement looking for something else, and I found this that I had from years ago. This is my superheroine character. I had a guy on DeviantArt did custom action figures using
That's cool.
like old action figures. So he made a action figure of my superheroine character. So
now, how's she on that base? Has she got pegs in her? Has she got a?
She's, you know what? I think she's glued on one foot and then she's not on the other.
Okay.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I.
Yeah.
Since I got this.
Are you going to tell us the name of said character? Or
this is the Ace.
Oh, the Ace. Okay.
The Ace. Yeah, this is the Ace. So.
Now, does she have anything like a belt buckle with an A, or? I mean, there's nothing on her chest.
She doesn't wear an A or anything like that. No.
Okay. Maybe down the side of the leg. She's branding, man.
She's an engineer. She's invented these bracelets that work on principles of electromagnetism,
Okay.
and they give her. She can create a force field. It'll stop bullets from being able to impact her too hard, and
Yeah.
she can run a little bit faster because of the repelling force of the electromagnetic field, things like that.
Besides the ace, queen of the force field. Go! Trivia. Queen of the force
Queen
field.
of the
Who
force
does that
field?
suggest to you?
That's Sue Storm.
Oh, nailed it. One guess, one answer. Quick. Yes. I mean, that's all she did for a while, that and turn invisible. Ooh, I'm frightened. I'm Doctor Doom.
Yeah. No,
but
I
she
can
turns
remember.
out she's more powerful than anything.
Well,
I can create a force bubble in your brain and expand it.
Yeah. Well, if I remember
up your nose.
I remember the first time I saw her use the power to create a force field around somebody that eventually they'd run out of oxygen and pass out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
fix the icing. Way to go,
yeah.
Susan.
Yeah.
That doesn't work on a Doom bot. Just saying.
Yeah, but no, I've had the ace since the early 2000s. And
that's cool. I like her white outfit. So if she really pummeled somebody and bloodied them up, she could get some splatter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like
she's
that. That's a minimalistic character, but it looks, cool. I mean, it looks like somebody could cosplay that or have that as a wrestling outfit or something very easily,
Absolutely.
Now, while you're doing the sexy, I'm doing the gross. This is my latest character right there.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So that's basically like the epidermis has been removed, and that's what you got left.
That's it is what it is. I don't say it's anatomically correct. I made around here like a mask,
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
But he's been through a transporter accident, and yeah, it didn't go well, But you know what his powers are?
He makes people throw up when they look at him.
Well, that's automatic. That's kind of like Mighty Man and Yuck. You'll get that, You remove the house off of Yuck, and they go, ah! No, he's like matter-eating lad. He eats things.
Oh, okay.
Living and inorganic. So he could eat rock or iron or, for one thing. That's what I'm thinking his powers might be.
Okay. All right.
I've always admired that about him. I think it might have been Mike Grell artwork. I'm not sure. They did the Legion pages. I would have to check. That was one of the first comics I ever bought. Was one of those 60 centers, and it was a back issue when I got it. But that was my neighbor got it like a year previous before I even started collecting. And they have in the back the Legion pages with bios on the different characters. And Matter Eater Lad had this hoagie bun, like a French loaf, hoagie bun.
Okay.
And it had like golf club sticking out of it and all kinds of iron and different stuff. He can eat anything. That was his power. Not much of a power, but enough to get him in the Legion of Superhero, I guess.
Yeah, I probably had a few of those Legion of Superheroes from the 70s.
Yeah.
That would have been when I was reading that book.
Well, Dave Cockrum probably designed a bunch of that. But now some of the designs were done by Jim Shooter when he was a wee little 13, 14-year-old writer doing Legion.
Yeah.
He came up with their looks and stuff too, I think.
It's been a long time. Legion, they had Bouncing Boy. Wasn't Bouncing Boy in the Legion?
One of my favorites.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. And now he married Triplicate Girl, I think in issue 200, and Computo, and here's the original Computo, killed one of his wives. So they cannot have a menage a trois. I guess they could. How many does it take for a menage a trois? 3? He could still have a menage a trois, but he could have had
three.
four.
Menage a trois.
He could have had three women in bed with him, although that's kind of kinky.
I'm trying to find something. I recently, AC Comics was having a huge sale.
I saw that. I think you posted something or something. You were like, hey, look at all these that I picked up.
Yeah, I posted a video about it, and so I did a lot of them. But there was one of the books I grabbed. I'm trying to find it. Ugh. One of the books. Where are they? One of the books had a character I think you're familiar with. Well, I think you might be familiar with. I gotta find that book.
I still have to get the issue that I have the original cover artwork to. Pencils and inks. I think it was done on separate pages, and I can't even get a copy of the comic. I need to track it down.
So I think.
Oh, that's a cool cover. I love it. Wow, Muckman.
I think Muckman.
Yeah.
You might enjoy a little Muckman.
That's cool. I like it already just by the cover. The cover sells it.
Yeah. So let me find.
Is that a chair in your fireplace?
Chair? No, it's a table.
Oh, okay.
It's a table. It's an old-fashioned table that you can like make vertical, so you can store it more compactly.
Right.
But then it'll flip over, and it's an old coffee table.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, do you use that in the wintertime? Do you use your...
That fireplace? No. Almost never.
Yeah, hardly.
Because there is a gas fireplace in the kitchen dining area, and it gets used in the winter, especially when there's snow, to dry out people's clothes.
What degree is that hanging up on the wall over your shoulder there?
You mean that?
Yeah, that. Mm-hmm.
That's actually that's a certificate from work from when I retired. I got.
U.S. Department of Justice? Is that what it says?
That's what it says.
Wow.
So, but yeah, this is Muckman. This is when they were in black and white, and so you've got.
I love it.
You've got them facing off against Muckman. I don't know, since you have.
That character reminds me of the character in the Elementals.
Yeah.
You remember the Elementals?
Oh yeah. The AC had a couple Muckman type characters like that.
I don't have a Muckman, but now I believe
you got Mr. Muck, don't you?
No, that's Eric and Boy.
Oh, Eric, that's right. Eric has Mr. Muck. Yeah.
That's why we must get this stuff in print, get it copyrighted, and get it trademarked. Otherwise, somebody come by and take it. I've had several names that I can't use now because Marvel has it or DC before me, and I might have had it a decade prior. I just never got it copyrighted.
And that's it's getting a copyright is as simple as getting it in print, but trademark, you got to pay the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. You got to prove that nobody else has that name in use in that particular industry, and trademark can get really expensive. Copyright's fairly simple.
A friend of mine worked for Hydro. Hydro makes conveyor belts, things like that, and they've been in a big factory here for as long as I've been around. Almost 60 years, maybe more here in town. One of the first factories out there, in what is kind of factory central now. We got Tyson out there, Nestle's, Post, other big factories, but Hydro's been out there for a very long time. I used to work out there at World Color, printing.
Oh,
That
okay.
used to print, Marvel and DC and or Marvel stuff. Of course, that Sparta, Illinois, had all those contracts, so we never got the comics. We did like Disney catalog, which was like every other week it seemed like, or monthly, I guess. We had that was the only thing running in between on the Stitchers because it was a stapled book. Uh, that did Newsweek. Newsweek was a weekly, so usually that ran Newsweek all the time. But if they
Uh-huh.
took it down and set it up for another job, it was probably going to be Disney catalog. They had a lot
Huh.
of bound airline books too. I was a cover feeder on those, and
So those
fencing
Disney
covers.
catalogs were stapled, or were they perfect bound?
The catalogs were stapled. The airline books, those thick airline
Mm-hmm.
books that they give you, those were glued.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Usually the books you get on the airline are glued, but
Yeah, they're glued.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Uh,
huh?
I'll be inking this
Yeah. Well,
tonight.
those were those old four color separation machines that you had to
Oh, they had some
have
stuff
the
going
right
all the way back to
red,
the.
yellow, and blue, and different numbers combinations. You'd put in the line art or whatever, and you'd say this is this code. This is this code for this blue needs to go here, and
Mhm.
yeah,
They had some machines that have been running since the early '70s or maybe late '60s that were still in operation there because it was Kruger before that for decades, for a long time. Then it became Renier, and that's when I hired on, and they kind of built it up to sell it off, and they sold it to World Color, and then shortly after I left, they changed it Quevercore. Quevercore bought them out, and then they shut
yeah,
down this branch here in town. So and it became
yeah.
something else
Well,
entirely.
I can remember probably by the was it or at least by the '90s, Quebecor was doing all of the DC and Marvel books. It seemed like they were the
Hmm.
printer for all those books.
Probably took over the contracts. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we when we were trying to build it up, and they were hiring on a lot of temporaries. I was temporary. I was there like 3 years and 3 months, and for 2.5 years, or like for the first couple of years, I think maybe 2.5 years to the day, I was temporary, and finally made permanent. So I wasn't permanent too long. I mean, not the majority of the time there. You know,
Huh.
it, but we would take on contracts and not even get to them. They had like on the polybagger where they polybag all the stuff in the trading cards or the subscription cards and or maybe another thin issue or something with it. Uh, you know, Wrap it up in plastic. They had a lot like crappie, bassin, fishing
Uh
magazines,
huh.
things like
Yeah.
that.
Huh.
You put it on the polybagger, and that old polybagger probably went back to the '70s at least. Just had this little heat wheel, went like this. The books would go down
Yeah.
there, and it
Yeah. Oh yeah.
glue that seam, and then come back up, and another one come down, and it wad up. Oh my God, what a mess! You know.
My this is completely off topic, but um, my dad did a lot of stuff. One of the things, he was kind of an amateur inventor, and he and this other guy developed this inflatable greenhouse structure, and they used these huge polyurethane tubes um, as the coverings over PVC piping, and so
Uh huh.
they had all these man-made like ponds, and they had PVC piping over them, and then they had these plastic tubes, and some of the tubes were clear plastic, and some of them were like black plastic,
Uh huh.
and he would use that polyurethane or those kind of polybag kind of he'd blow air through them, and if he blew up the black ones, it would be dark underneath, and so the ponds would be in darkness. And if he blew up the clear ones, the light from the sun could shine through. And his like I said, he was an inventor, but he wasn't a scientist. So his goal was to he stocked these ponds with tadpoles and with frogs and tadpoles. So he was trying to like create a frog farm to sell frogs for scientific purposes and to French restaurants or whatever the hell, you know.
Yeah.
But his idea was, well, I'll simulate night and day faster than night and day happens, and I'll speed up their cycle.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I don't know that it worked.
Yeah.
I do know that he ended up with so many frogs in such close proximity.
Yeah.
That one of them caught a disease,
and it killed them all.
And it killed like 100,000 frogs.
Wow.
And it's like he used to say, yeah, they all croaked.
There you go.
But you can go out to that property. It's in rural Kentucky, and there's frogs, like teeming with frogs in these little man-made that are still there. He doesn't own the property. You know, the property's just sitting there. You know, it's rural woodland area basically at this point. I mean, it's unused, except there's all these old man-made ponds that fill up with rainwater or what have you, and are just teeming with frogs now because, you know, some of them did survive and he abandoned the project, and now, you know, this Bullitt County, Kentucky is full of frogs. But, yeah. So anyway, your poly bags, and sealing the bags off, because, you know, they had to be sealed so you could get the air to blow them up and you know, expand them so that they would cover the block out the sun.
I take it he lost money because of that. So many frogs died.
I'm sure that he lost money, but it was not a. It wasn't a big money drain to start.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I mean,
it was one of those brain.
I went out to the lake once and helped him gig some frogs to put in bags so that we could stock the ponds. You know,
have
with
you had frog legs, and do you like frog legs?
I do not like frog. I have had them once, and I do not like them.
I had them once too, and it's like, I can see why they say it tastes like chicken, but it's got an amphibian taste.
Yeah, and there's not enough to it. There's not
enough to it, right?
Yeah.
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 Exactly. I mean, I could have had frog legs back in December because they make frog legs where we had our little office party, but yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. No, there's some things it's like, well, that's cool, but it doesn't really do it for me.
Shadowhawk likes frog legs. I know that,
yeah.
But I guess it depends. It's like anything else, how you prepare it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the most exotic thing you've eaten, you think? I had barbecue squirrel one time.
I mean, it depends on what's exotic. I mean,
yeah.
I had sweetbread once when I was in Europe.
What's sweetbread made of?
It's like cow's brain.
Oh, okay. I should have
known. I think I'm right about that.
Okay.
You know, so I've had that. I had the contents of an eel's stomach once. I had an older cousin who was a food inspector, and so he would go around to restaurants and, you know, make sure that all their conditions were good. And so he was really into food, and he took me to this fancy restaurant once where he had to work, but we had dinner there, and his favorite thing at this place was, like, they brought out this squid, and they sliced open the squid, and you ate out, you know, they'd steamed it or whatever, and you then ate the contents of this. It was actually really freaking good. I've never had anything like it since, but it was really good.
I watched on X just a short little video where they were preparing the squid, and they put it on the table where the squid's still doing this, you know. The I mean, basically they dress it up, but they prepare it. I mean, they don't cook it, so I guess that way, because they like take the flat part and flatten it out, and cut it in, and then lay it,
Right.
and it's all in presentation. They layer it and use the head part, which is still moving. It's like,
Yeah.
I felt sorry for the squid, but that's the way it is. You
Yeah.
know,
I like calamari,
yeah.
but
I've had that, but I didn't much.
but I mean, it depends on, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It depends on
Mhm.
how it's made, the quality of the person making it. I
Well,
think
there's a
matters,
brand
but
of beef jerky that does like wild hog, ostrich, buffalo,
yeah, oh yeah,
alligator, different
yeah,
things like
yeah,
that, beef jerky. So in jerky form, I've had
yeah,
a variety of meat. In fact, when I picked up kids after school to take them to karate class, uh, I would say, as a treat for the kids, I'd say, who wants to try some ostrich, or
yeah.
something like that, and give them a piece.
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, we used to go to the Kentucky State Fair when I was younger, and they had emu,
Oh yeah,
and
I probably
it was advertised as the other red meat. You know how
instead of the other white meat.
instead of the
Yeah.
other white meat, exactly, it was
Uh
the
huh.
other red meat. So, I mean, it depends on what you consider exotic. I mean, I know people who I've told them I had Frito pies, or I've told them I had fried Twinkies, and they're like,
Yeah.
that's exotic to some people. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Fried Twinkies. That's fair food.
yeah, oh yeah.
That's like fried butter,
I mean,
fried
why
ice
would you?
cream.
And I've never understood
Yeah.
fried butter. Fried ice cream used to be a thing when you went to a Mexican restaurant. That was the only dessert you could get was fried ice cream.
Yeah.
But I've never understood fried butter.
And the
But
funnel
then,
cakes.
well, my father actually, one of his other businesses was he'd go to fairs and festivals and he'd sell elephant ears, which
Elephant
were
ears.
elephant ears. But what it was basically like a funnel cake. It was a deep fried bread dough. He'd stretch out this yeast dough and he'd drop it into some peanut oil and it would fry up, and he'd flip it and fry the other side, and he'd pull it out. And then you could put toppings on it. You could make it sweet. You could put powdered sugar or cinnamon and sugar on it. Or you could make it savory and put nacho cheese sauce on it, or sour cream and onion sauce, like French onion sauce. And he'd sell it at fairs. And so that's he got the idea. The Hungarians used to do a heritage festival on our downtown. We had like different ethnic festivals in Louisville, and the Hungarians had langos, which is this he was making was langos basically, but my mother was Serbian, so he called it something different because they weren't going to give credit to the Hungarians.
And what is that? Is that the cakes that you're talking about?
It's
What is one?
basically, well, a funnel cake is basically this dough that you just you circle it in, you drop it into oil, and it fries
Hmm.
up, right?
Right.
Well, this was just a yeast dough. It's just you
Okay.
pull it, you
And the
stretch it out.
Hungarians made something
The
similar.
Hungarians did
Okay.
that, and they would fry it in oil, and they would
Okay.
have that at these festivals.
So that's
Well,
probably the origin of the funnel cake is
oh,
Hungarian.
I don't know if it's the origin of the funnel cake. Definitely elephant. If you go to get tiger's ears or elephant ears at a festival, that's definitely the origin. And
Well, now I think you could probably go to the Waffle House and get a Belgian waffle, but I had never seen a Belgian waffle till 1982, and I went to the World's Fair over in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they had Belgian waffles, or like I'd never heard of boysenberry before.
yeah, yeah.
Boysenberry syrup, or what's a
Yeah, well,
boysenberry?
I mean, even as late as 10, 15 years ago, my wife and I were in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a bunch of like I guess elderberries,
Yep.
which I'd never heard of until I was there. So, you don't. Things are a lot different now. I mean, back when we were younger, you you know the fruit you got was what was in season during that time of year where you lived, and during the winter you didn't have any fruit. And
Right.
I mean, it just you didn't have all this stuff. I mean, we had
Unless you
blackberries and
dried it out and
blueberries,
saved it for
and
wintertime.
right, you made it a
Yeah.
preserve and saved it as a preserve or
Yeah.
something. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you didn't you couldn't just go to the store all year round and find a watermelon. I mean, as a kid, I can remember waiting for June so I could get a freaking watermelon because I
Yeah.
loved watermelon.
Yeah.
So, and they used to have yellow watermelons, and that was a real treat when you found a yellow watermelon because
Yeah. You had a
whether they
black
were
diamond.
whether they were or weren't, we all thought they were sweeter than the red watermelons. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that was ever true, but it was certainly in our head that it was.
They said never, as a kid, don't eat the seeds, but the seeds are actually pretty good. They say that the
I
seeds are great for you.
they always said don't eat the seeds. You don't want to grow a watermelon in your stomach.
Yeah,
But
that's what. Yeah, that's what they told us.
like
Yeah,
that was legitimately going to happen.
but
But
now when I look at
I
these
ate
health
I
food
ate the
things,
seeds. I ate the seeds all the time,
yeah,
and I didn't even really think about it. But now all the watermelons are seedless.
yeah, yeah, they bred them out just
Yeah.
about. Yeah, it's but they actually say that they're pretty good for you. Something that I started eating last year and still eat a little bit each every day or try to are pumpkin seeds. Uh,
Yeah.
they're just David salted pumpkin seeds. They're salty. Maybe I wouldn't like them any. It seems like that's the only brand I can find around here, and that's fine. But it's high in magnesium and other stuff that your brain
Now,
needs. And
have you ever tried to when you were carving a pumpkin and you're getting all the guts out of the pumpkin, and have you ever put the seeds aside so that you could wash them and clean them and dry them and then toast them in the oven to
never,
see if to do it yourself?
no, I've never
I've
done that.
I've done it. It's never tasted good as good
Never
as the ones you
tasted good.
buy.
Yeah, leave it to the
Never
professionals.
leave it to the professionals.
I mean, for
Exactly.
$1.25, you can get a bag. I mean,
Exactly. But yeah.
yeah, that seems like too much trouble. Now, I did see a thing on X where they were preparing a meal in the pumpkin over the fire. They
Oh, that's
gutted it
cool.
and put the stew or whatever in the pumpkin, and then they would slice, the bowl up after they dip it,
Uh
the
huh.
contents out, and you would eat part of the pumpkin with your meal.
That's
So you get
cool.
to prepare the meal in the bowl, and you get to eat the
Well,
bowl.
that's a neat little idea. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's almost like something a Boy Scout troop should do on a October campout.
I remember I don't know if you remember, I want to zoom. It was on PBS.
Zoom on PBS. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. That was one of my
yeah.
favorite shows.
One thing they did, which was kind of wild, it was a Boy Scout thing that they were showing. You get a fish, right? And I think they put a wedge in there so you could separate the dung, but you cover it in like dung and then cook the fish in the dung over the fire, which, it's a fuel source, it can. And then open it up and then it's surrounded by dung.
No, I
That
wouldn't have
always
done that.
stuck with me. That's probably the only thing that stuck with me, that and the song, you know,
Yeah. No,
from
I
that
mean
show.
we
I'll
used to
pass on that.
we used to go ahead and cook the corn in the husks right in the fire. Um,
Yeah. But now if
you
you're out
know.
in the wild and you're starving and a fish is all you have and there's cow dung and you can create a fire, you can have a meal. I'm just
Well,
saying.
but
Just don't eat the dung.
if you can create a fire and you got a fish, you don't need the cow dung to create the
Yeah,
meal.
that's true. I guess maybe they wanted to get it hot and what.
I don't know. I mean that's we just use aluminum foil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is
We
not.
just wrapped everything in aluminum foil.
Yeah, yeah. Reynolds wrap or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I hear that's not good. The aluminum for your brain and stuff.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
It's like
Maybe that's
fluoride.
my issue.
What do you think? What do you think about them taking a lot of this stuff to task about the food and stuff like that? I think it's high time we do that.
I mean,
And outlaw some of the stuff like corn syrup, or at least curtail it or whatever. You know.
I mean, I certainly feel like just food was more natural and organic, and when we were younger, and people had fewer issues. I mean,
oh, definitely. I mean, diabetes was 100 on the disease list in America in 1902.
Yeah,
it's like number 3 or 2 on
yeah,
the disease list now. That's because of all the sugar.
yeah.
For one thing.
So, yeah, I certainly. I mean, look, I love a lot of the food that's processed and not good for you, but I recognize that it would be better if I didn't eat a lot of that stuff. So
I'm drawing. Well, I'm inking. How about that? I'm inking my chameleon guy.
Yeah.
As I talk to Paul.
Yeah.
Flying feline in the house. Hello, flying feline.
I'm trying to think if I got something that I can show as a drawing, even though it's not my drawing.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you do.
Because I got. Let me find something.
Does inking count as drawing, Gable? Does it? Does it really?
Finishing.
Yeah, I definitely would put it in there as drawing myself. I think that's where it comes to life. All the line weights and everything.
Let's see.
I had to make sure that I get these eyes right. Otherwise, it's just going to look goofy.
Let me try to.
Which I don't do that in the pencil stage. It's beyond me, but just didn't take enough time on this one.
So if you
share screen.
Yeah, if you share screen, I can show y'all something. So, you got it?
Got it. It's up on the screen.
So this is the Ace. This is going to be the first issue. It's going to be available at Indie Planet.
Okay, yeah, I think you showed us some of this last time.
I showed y'all this before, I think. But, yeah. So
now tell us her powers again, besides her being athletic.
So she's an inventor. She's actually a college professor, but she's invented these bracelets, these electromagnetic. Okay. They create an electromagnetic force field, and that helps her. She can run a little faster, jump a little higher. It doesn't hurt as much when she lands, because the force field is kind of pushing against stuff. And so people shoot bullets, and the bullets are slowed down, and they don't penetrate her. But she's susceptible to gas. She's susceptible even to, like if somebody grabs her and slowly squeezes her, it's not gonna, they can overcome the force field. It's more for high velocity stuff.
So if the Hulk grabbed her force field and squeezed real hard.
Yeah, exactly. So, she gets. But anyway, she gets into trouble. She gets out of trouble.
Now, what does she teach?
She teaches
science.
She teaches. Yeah, I'm going to stop screen. She teaches basically physics.
Okay.
So she's electromagnetism and physics. She's a physicist, but her doctorate is going to be in electromagnetism. So she's a doctoral student. She's like an associate professor.
Would you ever consider doing a crossover with the character at some point?
Well, in some of my kind of stories that haven't been turned into graphic art, she's met some of my other characters.
Okay.
And they've had crossovers. I don't have her. I don't know that she's necessarily crossed over with anybody else who's done a book, but I wouldn't be against it. She was featured in G-Man Comics, which is out of California. They do a lot of stuff on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And she is included in their handbook of heroes and heroines that they put out with their books.
I think we actually saw that recently. I think somebody brought that up or on the show just the other day. They were showing that G-Man handbook. It was Crooked Painter. He was on the cover of that handbook.
Yeah, one of my, especially this latest Kickstarter, because she was featured maybe 2 or 3 Kickstarters ago. She was in the handbook.
All right.
This latest one, I know that the artist, the penciler for those pages I just showed you, penciled some stuff for them in their latest book that they've got on Kickstarter. So one of their latest books on Kickstarter.
Now, she's not made the cover of one of those, has she? Was she on the cover?
She wasn't on the cover, no. She was, well, she might have been on the cover of the handbook.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Yeah, she
might have been one of the characters on the cover of the handbook.
Did they comp you a copy of that?
Yes.
Where you have a copy?
I've got that somewhere, but I don't really know where it is right now. But yes, I have it.
Yeah. That would be irritating to me if I didn't get a comp of the copy.
No, they definitely comp me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun series. They have a character called Lynx, which which is a male and a female. They're kind of they wear white, but they're also crime fighters. They're crime fighters. So it's good old fashioned comic book entertainment and fun like we used to have when we were young.
Yeah.
And it's well drawn and good stories. So it's a lot of fun. So if your friend is, I'm sure hopefully they're getting a lot of support on this Kickstarter.
Well, now he was on the drawn end here, but he was sharing screen and showing us that he was on the cover of that. I had don't really pay attention to really what's going on over at Kickstarter,
Yeah,
myself.
I don't either. I'm probably the only Kickstarter I follow is this G-Man Comics.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who, because they use Kickstarter, not Indiegogo or Fund My Comic, which I tend to use Indiegogo or Fund My Comic.
I get it.
My plans are.
It's more of a it's a bigger platform. I get it, but it would be nice if they did go on multiple platforms, with their projects, and give people a little option.
Yeah,
be nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but and in fact, I've thought about running my projects on Kickstarter as well as Indiegogo and Fund My Comic, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it. Because I could put Tantalizing Adventures on Kickstarter. I've never run it on Kickstarter.
Have you seen?
See if I could get some extra sales that way.
Have you seen Timothy? What's his name? I guarantee you, if I go over there to website, to Fund My Comic, he's got about half dozen, if not more, projects over there. And I think as the projects are funding, he's working on them if he doesn't already have them. Tim Taylor. You're familiar with Tim Taylor?
I know I think I may know the name.
He's over there on Fun My Comic right now. I'm showing he's got engine number 1, which is like 20% their age of end number 1, which is 9% funded over there. But he just leaves them up there, and he's got Bolt Action number 4. I know Shadowhawk uh, has backed some of his books, like Bolt Action. I turned him on to Bolt
Yeah.
Action.
Well,
That's
I mean,
48% funded.
yeah.
He doesn't ask a lot. I think 1,200 for this one, 700 for that one. Well, and then 500. So he's got different amounts for different projects.
Yeah.
But
I've got Tantalizing Adventures up on Fund My Comic, but it's
I
never
know you do.
made.
Yeah.
It's never made. You know, it's not. It hasn't been backed by a lot of people on Fund My Comic. Most of the backers came on Indiegogo.
Oh, okay.
So, but I leave it up on Fund My Comic because it's just a storefront, and if somebody runs across it, I might
I'm
get an
glad you
order.
did. I'm glad you do because I plan on backing it. It's just I have to get to this working uh,
Yeah. Well,
season, which will be in April, and then I'll start
yeah.
backing a few things.
Well, when I get 3 issues of this Ace comic done, I'm gonna combine them together.
And that's going out
And
right now, is it not? You've already got it completed.
the
So
the
if they
first
want to
the
issue a Tantalizing Tales, they can get it right now and
Tantalizing
ship
Adventures
immediately.
they can get right now. Yeah, they can
Yeah,
get it right now.
and you got a Bill Black cover, which
Yes, one of the covers is by Bill Black. Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
would love
Tantalizing
to have a Bill
Adventures.
Black cover. I'm just saying, I would love to have a Bill
Hey,
Black cover.
I mean,
I mean, 80 something years old. Give me something before you pass away. This is,
yeah.
this is
No, he's something.
he's a legend.
But
Yeah,
yeah, but
even though he's not known by a lot of people,
exactly. But
but
Tantalizing
he's done
Adventures, yeah,
tons of stuff,
it's
man.
up. But no, this Tantalizing, what did I call it? Tantalizing Action? Well, I can't even remember what I called it.
Tantalizing. I'm going to bring it up here.
Well, Tantalizing Adventures is my Jungle Girl one. I'm
Right.
saying this superhero one. I'm eventually going to do. I'm going to put it on Fund My Comic, but I'm waiting. I'm going to have 90-something pages of it before I put it on Fund My Comic. So I'm putting out the individual books as like 30-page books, 30 to 34 pages.
Uh-huh.
And then when I get 3 of them, I'll have 90-something pages or almost 100 pages. I'll do a big like graphic novel of it, a trade paperback, and that's what I'll put on Fund My Comic.
We're going to watch your trailer. Wait a minute. I better back it up, though. The only trailer that you can flamenco dance to, folks.
And I don't know. I found
Do the tango.
I found some non-copyrighted music on YouTube that you were allowed to use for stuff.
Hey, I dig
And but I did the video myself, so it's not like a professional did the video. But I think it provides enough of a preview to give you an idea of what's in the book.
And what's the page count on this, Paul?
92 pages.
92 pages. Ready to go.
92 pages. 80 pages of story and a bunch of pinups and some extra material.
Va, 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 boom.
Yep. Hey, good girl art is my thing, so.
Yeah.
I like good girl art stories.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to work the sexy in mine. You've probably seen my midnight double page spread. Trying to work
Yeah.
some female characters in.
Yeah.
Gotta
Well,
have that sex appeal.
Got it exactly. It pulls people in.
Yeah. Maybe I just didn't have enough sex appeal on my project.
Well, different people like different kinds of projects too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you see.
well, you're drawing beautiful, salacious women. I'm drawing melting characters.
Yeah, yeah,
Monster.
yeah.
But
Well, but monsters are big now. The people like Aaron Lopresti who can do monster books and have attractive women. That's kind of like,
yeah, yeah.
That's really good.
If you can do it all, I say do it.
Yeah, I like Aaron Lopresti's books.
Yeah, he used to do the Mystic for CrossGen.
Yes, I know. I know.
Yeah.
He was on Wonder Woman too for a while. He had a run on Wonder Woman.
He did, yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't really like the writing on that run, but I liked his artwork. So.
Do you remember who the writer was during that period?
I don't even remember. That's how.
Okay.
I tend to not remember the people I don't care for.
Yeah.
And I do remember the names of people who I like their stuff. So.
Well, we're hoping to fulfill my project. I'm hoping to fulfill it in July, which will be a year and a half on the project. So I don't think that's too bad. It's just a 48 pager, but we're adding some stuff.
Yeah. But now you don't have it even up yet, do you? You haven't started crowdfunding.
Yeah, it's
yet,
up on my comic.
Huh.
Yes, and Reedy did.
Now I need to check Fund My Comic and make sure I thought it wasn't quite up there yet. Hang on, I'm trying to figure out if
we've done like 3,600 so far. We're going to be doing a soft relaunch or makeover of the campaign in March 8th over on Red Valkyries. And go on the promoting, circuit again. Just look under Devil Flyer over there.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if
I can't remember if you backed it or not.
That's why I'm looking before I go back it. I'm trying to make sure I didn't already back it.
Yeah,
I've had that happen sometimes.
I want to say yes, but.
Yeah, it says, Devil Flyer, a Devil's Weapon epic size 48-page one-shot.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So, I've already backed it.
Which is not going to be... I think you were the 60th backer.
I don't know.
I think you were number 60, actually, if I remember right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not telling me from my end what backer I was.
Oh, hell, just back it again.
But no, I backed it. It's showing up on my... That's why I don't know. I forget sometimes what I've backed. And I've actually backed a couple things twice by accident.
Yeah.
Just because I was
not a bad thing. But.
I must have seen it talked about someplace and said, "Oh, let me go get that." And then a couple months later, I saw it talked about someplace, and I said, "Oh, that looks good. Let me go get that."
Yeah, well, I mean that tells you you're really drawn to that project. It appeals to you.
Yep. So, it's some interesting stuff that's up there right now. I guess I've backed a few of these things. But,
eventually I would like, after I get some of these characters established, I would like to do some crossovers, like one-shot little team-up type things where maybe your ace fights one of my characters or something or whatever, or goes on an adventure, and then, I kind of like the appeal of drawing in other characters. I just think that's so cool,
I'm all for doing crossovers. I like the idea of it. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of cross over between my own characters in my mind, some stories that I've kind of written that are just sitting on my home computer. But um, yeah, I'm up for crossovers.
Yeah, and you're a writer. We could kind of go over the plot or something. You could write a chapter. I could write a chapter or something. I
Absolutely.
don't.
Yeah,
In the future, that'd just be
yeah.
fun. I think.
I agree. Well, I have uh, a guy I've known. I mean, I'd say friends, but
Mm-hmm.
it's
Associate.
more like longtime acquaintances who are
Okay.
friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he has a character that he Antarctic Press published way back in the '90s called Chesty Sanchez, and she was
Chesty.
a Chesty Sanchez. Yeah, yeah.
No
Um,
innuendo there, folks.
she was a Mexican luchadora character,
Okay.
um, but female luchadora,
Mm-hmm.
and just a fun book. And they only had two and a half to three issues of it. They put out a compilation, and then she hasn't really had any appearances in 20 something years.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him, and I was putting out Tantalizing Adventures with my Jungle Girl character, and we've got a story that's being drawn. It's a 9-pager where my Jungle Adventurer and Chesty Sanchez are going to team up. So it'll be a Chesty Sanchez, Alina Aguilar team up story set in Belize, and I've got the artist is pretty much done with the inks. I think we just got to get it colored, and so we have this team up. I'm assuming at some point it'll show up in an Antarctic Press book, but I couldn't tell you which one.
Now tell me about Antarctic Press, just kind of the history of Antarctic Press. What do you know about them? Because I definitely got some of their stuff, but they came out around Image days, right? Early
Well,
90s?
I think they were before Image. I mean,
Probably a little bit before, yeah.
I think right after, like AC Comics started in like 81, 82,
Right. Yeah.
and then Femforce came out 85. And I'd say Antarctic Press probably by 87 or 88 is when they
The
started.
one shot 84, wasn't it? Because he celebrated last year 40 years.
40, yeah. The Femforce special #1 was 84.
That's the start now, Paul.
Yeah, that's the start. Absolutely, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Celebrate 40 years without.
I'm 40 years now from the start of the Femforce series. So
Yeah, exactly.
But Antarctic Press probably started, I would guess, 87, 88. I'm just guessing. I don't know that I really read any of their stuff when I was younger. And a lot of their current work has a manga feel to it in terms of the artwork. It's got that kind of almost manga-ness to it, which isn't normally something I go
drawn
for.
to.
But they are putting out jungle comics and thrilling comics and exciting comics. So they're kind of putting out these books that are throwbacks to the Golden Age type of books, where you have serialized Jungle Girl stories with different not even jungle girls, jungle character stories. And then you'll have another one that's sci-fi, it's space science fiction stories. Or you'll have another one of their books is more of that pulp crime fighter, Golden Age pulp crime fighter type noir type of book. And so at least now, those books I like. I tend to pick those up. But they also, I think the publisher or publishers are two brothers. Their last name is Dunn, Dunn,
Mm-hmm.
And I think they draw, at least the artist one draws in a more manga style, and so that's why a lot of their books are that way. But they, as a line, as a publishing company, they do sell other kinds of stories, and those are the ones I tend to pick up more often than not. But I don't know. I don't remember what they put out, other than Chesty Sanchez. I don't remember what they put out in the
I love
80s.
that name, Chesty.
Yeah.
Have you seen Apex Comics book over there on Fun My Comic? Filmbat
I,
#1.
I have seen it. Yes, I have
Okay.
seen it.
Groovy.
Yeah, what I like about that book is it's got a really like 70s psychedelic feel, but it's also got this almost 80s underground style to the artwork. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's looking cool. It's looking very
Yeah.
cool.
What's neat, I mean, she was bit by a vampire in 68 and it's set in modern day. I said, that's great. You can tell stories when she was in the late 60s, 70s,
Hmm.
80s, 90s.
Yeah,
All those time periods are up for grabs for new stories. That's cool.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
No, it really does. It's a throwback to in the art style, I think, to like late 70s, early 80s underground books, kind of the um, alternative comic books, the non-mainstream comic books
one of
back
the
then.
early independents in the early 70s was Power Comics, and he's got like a Power
Uh-huh.
Comic #1 wraparound homage cover.
Yeah.
Uh, there was Cobalt Man.
I don't
You
remember
remember
Cobalt
Cope
Man.
from Power Comics? You don't? Kind of
No, I don't remember.
obscure, you know. I mean, but early independent, just like Bill Black's AC
Yeah. No,
Comics,
I mean, yeah, I mean,
or Paragon.
I
Paragon.
remember Dave Campiti was like the editor of Wonder Color Comics and then Innovation, I think. And
Okay.
they had like Hero Alliance and Power
I'm
Factor and
aware, believe it or not, of Wonder Comics and Innovation. Both of
yeah,
them. I have
yeah,
those in my collection.
yeah.
Some of their stuff.
So yeah, some of their stuff
Yeah.
exactly. So
Obscure. I mean,
that's
low print,
right,
black and white mostly.
right,
Why do you think that comics broke loose in the 80s like they did? Especially the black and white thing that a lot of people jumped in and dipped their toe.
Well,
Like
I think
Randy Zimmerman from
because
Arrow Comics. And,
the direct market broke loose in the
oh,
80s,
okay. I
and
guess that was it. Yeah.
it opened up for I mean, before you had to have newsstand distribution,
Or mail
you,
order.
you were doing mail order, so
Yeah.
you had a bunch of prozines, like Bill Black was
Prozac.
putting out prozines.
I got it. I got it. Just,
Bill
got to slip
Black was
those in
putting
there
out,
sometime.
um, his books that were mail order,
Mhm.
and that was kind of the underground comic scene. And they put ads in Marvel or DC books saying, buy our, you know, send this
Right.
much money for shipping and handling, and buy our
Uh-huh.
magazine with comic books in it or comic
Yep.
stories in it.
Mhm.
But then, in the early '80s, to be on the newsstand, you had to
Yeah.
print up 300,000 copies
Yeah.
of these
Yeah.
books,
It was kind
and
of prohibitive.
then if they didn't sell,
Yeah.
they'd give you the covers back, and
You had to accept
you
that.
had to refund their money
Yeah.
for the things that didn't sell. So
Mm-hmm.
you had to be a big, a fairly large company to be able
Mm-hmm.
to get onto the newsstand. But then the direct market shows up, and Capital City and Diamond and
Yep.
later Heroes World, um, you could get distribution to comic book shops, and you'd know how many books you needed to print before they were pre-sold, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it's like, oh, well, we've got orders for, 2,000 books. We'll print up 2,200 of them so we have some extras. And then, and we don't have to pay any money back. Once we sell them, we get paid for them. And so I think that led a lot of independents, um, kind of startup companies and break in and get distribution. These comic book shops needed more books to fill out, to have enough stuff to bring customers in, and DC and Marvel didn't put out, it's not like today, they didn't put out, 100 titles a month.
Yeah.
They put out like 10 titles a month. Well, a shop isn't going to be able to survive selling,
No.
100 books,
Right. Right.
especially at half cover price on a 50-cent book or whatever. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so,
I didn't
you know,
buy
the,
Captain Canuck because Canuck. It looked interesting to me. I liked the art style. The coloring was innovative for the time. For newsprint, I thought was better than some of the others. But 50 cents, and I was like, I can buy two for one.
yeah,
I'm not that. What's going on. I'd always look at it and was interested, but I was unwilling to pay the extra quarter when I could get two compared to
right,
that one. I just
yeah.
could, you know.
But
I'm,
that's, I think that's why. And then, then too many people jumped in, and some of the publishers went under because they didn't get enough sales. And,
yeah. You
you
think it
know,
was all the direct market breaking loose?
I think the direct market broke loose, and that
Yeah.
that kind of created a way into the market for smaller
Hey, Dana.
publishers. Yeah.
Thank you, Dana.
So,
Appreciate it. Uh, yeah.
I mean,
I
I could
just,
be wrong, but I mean, I was I was a young college student, or maybe just out of high school when the direct market started. I was still in high school when the direct market started,
uh huh.
and we had a comic book shop. Thinking back on it, we had one of the first, comic book shops
Yeah.
in my city,
I did
and
too. When I had my
I would,
comic book shop in '82 and '83, we went through Capitol. Diamond
yeah.
wasn't even a thing.
Diamond wasn't big where I was either. It was Capital City. That's
Uh huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would drive my car over every Wednesday, and after school or whatever, stop. I'd go to this comic book shop, which wasn't actually in my neighborhood, but I was close enough. The
Hmm.
next high school over, and I'd get the books that I liked to read, and then when I went off to college, I found a comic book shop in my small college town. They'd already opened one up, and it was
Yeah.
in the base. It was in the basement of some downtown store. You had to walk down the stairs, and it was kind of dingy and dark. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
one day I walked in there, and there's a bunch of FemForce on the shelf, and I started reading it. So
The rest is history.
yeah.
Yeah. And you started writing some of the FemForce stuff
Well,
at
that was
some
years
point.
later. That was
Years
years
later.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it hooked you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about it, I mean, it's been 20 years since I wrote anything for FemForce.
Think you ever go back to that? I mean, is that an option? I would think.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's they never had any trouble, finding stories or writing stories up for it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and it's even as a fan, it was hard for me to write stories for it because I didn't want to screw up anything that they were already doing.
Continuity.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd always like try to write a story that was not set at the same time as the stuff that was going on in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, but no, I mean it was a lot of fun.
How's the weather been there where you at? Did you get any snow or any of that stuff that came through?
Got the tiniest amount of snow the other day. The kids were really disappointed. They didn't miss out on any school.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been cold. It's been in the
I'm
20s.
disappointed I didn't miss any school.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
I guess that's what kids think about.
yeah. I think they got let out early one day because they were thinking it was going to snow really bad, and then it didn't. They were right back in school the next morning. So that was the extent of it. But it has been cold. It's probably been in the 20s the last few days, and
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm done with winter myself. I've never really liked winter that much. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I'm ready
I'm
for spring
yeah.
for sure. Ready for
Oh
spring.
yeah.
Showed a bunch of toys today on today's episode. I don't know if you got to catch any of it, but
No, I was running around a little bit today,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then we actually went out to dinner tonight,
yeah.
which we
What'd
don't.
you have? Seafood? What?
I actually had a steak, man.
Steak. There you go.
I've been craving one. I haven't had one in a really long time, and I convinced everybody to go to a place where I could get a steak. So
Now is coloring drawing? I think so. It helps add volume and fill it in.
coloring counts. I think it's all
Coloring
part of the
counts.
artistic
Okay.
process. I know
Yeah.
when I'm paying for a book, I got to pay a colorist too. So
Yeah. 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 Oh, Paul, I just got my Jimmy Reyes cover colored.
oh
It's
yeah.
finished. By John uh, by John Dillard. I'm
Oh
trying to
really?
think. Is there a way I can show you without showing the world? Um, a picture. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. Can you put it in the private chat? Is that
Be good.
possible?
Yeah. Let's see.
I don't even know how the private chat works, but I mean, other than I know how to text in the private chat, but I don't know how to. I don't know
Over
if you can
3 years,
put an image.
and I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Surely that has a link. Let me put it in the private chat, and you can go. Hopefully, let me try.
Okay,
See
I'm
if it
trying
leads
to
me
look
to
at
it.
it right now.
Okay. I clicked on it too, just to see if it would come up.
It's sending me to my messages in X.
Yeah, that doesn't work, does it?
No, no, it sent me to my messages in
I mean,
X.
Dealer Draws is there, but it doesn't really.
Hmm.
Well, that sucks.
Eh,
Didn't work.
I guess I get to see it.
March
I get to
8th.
see it when.
March 8th.
Yeah,
It's
March 8th.
maybe a couple
Okay.
days later. I'm not sure since it's you know, a campaign that's rolling now, and we'll start putting up things here this weekend on the campaign. Probably, we have a. I can show you the. I think I've shown you the midnight double page spread, haven't I? The Western drawn in tier.
Yes. Yeah, but I'd like
Yeah.
to see it again.
Okay. Yeah,
If you
I'm
got it.
putting that up on the campaign here pretty soon. Hopefully this weekend with Omer. There's no reason why, you know, we shouldn't put it up on the campaign. Um, or to Instagram and grab that. The thing I like about the Ace is it's a simple design. You can always go complex with the character, but you start out with a simple design. I think that's,
Well,
the
it's.
most
I mean,
effective way to design a
you
character.
gotta have some respect for the artist's time. I mean, when you start making things really super complex, they
Yeah.
have to draw that, and then they have to remember in
Again,
different positions what's it going to look like from this angle, what's it going to look like from that other angle. Oh, I forgot to put the pockets on the pants this in this panel. I forgot to put the you know
yeah.
the bullets on the whatever in this panel. I mean, it's there's just a lot of extra work. It's a lot
Or if
easier
you
to
have
like,
something on the right, not the left, then they have to
yeah,
figure out, okay, was that on the right or the left? Every
yeah.
time.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, just trying to simplify it so that it's an artist can have a shot at being consistent. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm going to be
That's good.
developing Midnight on two timelines, when she was younger and when she was older. And she's coming back from Cambridge, being educated, part of her education in the East, and then Cambridge in England, coming back to the West to visit her parents, coming home. And so they bought her an outfit, and this hat and the horse and, uh, a whole setup for her coming sort of as a graduation type thing. That's part of the
Mm-hmm.
story. They print a newspaper and they've ticked off somebody who has political aspirations or who is in
Mm-hmm.
politics, and they've ticked them off with their paper, the Midnight Chronicle, which is named after her. Her name is Brittany Midnight Summer, I believe, or Summers, something like that. I think that's what I've got written in. And uh, I've been developing this character. I can't wait to get to her. Um, and she'll go up against one of these 43 characters. But now it'll be like I'm going to work in the young and the old in that story, I think.
Now, who did that art that you just had up there? Who was the
That was
artist?
Jay Kreger. He's done like Meathead. He's working on Meathead right now. He did Hammer, his own book, other stuff. He's really good.
Yeah, that was a really
Works,
nice. That was a really
does,
nice 2 page. That was a really nice spread. That was a really nice
yeah.
spread.
I mean, he's a portrait. He said that was the easiest thing about that was the portraits. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
got Shadowhawk in there on the bottom left hand corner. Got Crooked Painter up there on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Got her horse called, I believe, Sundown. She's got to have a couple of horses because horses don't last forever, right? Uh,
Correct. No,
oh,
that's
Friday
nice.
night must have ended Mad Ruth. Sorry, I kind of overstreamed a little bit. We got lack down there. I wish I could zoom in and show you that, but yeah, I just to develop that character, I came up with sort of old lady Midnight, the kind of like old man Logan, or you
Mm-hmm.
know, to develop her in two different timelines.
Yeah.
Older, more
Right.
experienced. She's going to be coming to the future and going back to the past. You know, at some point, so she'll be in Devil Flyer. So we'll have characters from the Old West, the Midnight, and the Roustabouts. So maybe some of the Roustabouts will be there with her. The great thing about Roustabouts is like Shadowhawk. He wants to be in a few stories, then he wants to be killed off. So I'll have to devise a way that develop the character and then kill the character off. I'm all for that, you know. And I'll try and
Yeah.
develop the character well enough to where you care about the character and his death, you know.
Right.
Um, to me, when Captain Kirk died by falling,
Mm-hmm.
it was like I was more invested when Spock was like, you know,
Yeah.
in there and
Yeah.
dying and like, oh no, and then he does. Shatner's acting was not. I mean, let's face it, he's never won an Oscar, nor you know. But but when he said he was the most human, you know, he just kind of gets choked up. It's like, yeah, that's bad acting, but I got choked up because I like Spock. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I felt it. You know, I really didn't want Spock to die. You know, um, and I don't really think it was some of the greatest scenes ever done, but you know, they sell it enough to where, and you're invested enough in Spock. Oh no, they're killing Spock. He's gonna
Yeah.
die. I don't want
Yeah.
Spock to go. You know, um, you were rooting for the space whales. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I, you know, great death scenes. When Phoenix died in X-Men, I cried. One of the greatest death scenes ever depicted in comics, I think. Because I've talked to other readers, you know, and they developed that over 2 years or more.
Mm-hmm.
Claremont did, and then Byrne and Austin. I mean, that's just a seminal run. I think it's one of the greatest events to ever happen in to be developed in comics. You know, and look at all the different characters, the mutants that they introduced during that, Kitty Pryde and Dazzler, and you know, just Lockheed, the little dragon, and just uh, you know, the Hellfire Club and all that. You know,
Yeah.
Irma Frost. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just
No,
a great time
that's
in comics.
it was. It was.
And it was heart wrenching. You know, here's a fictional character uh, that really I didn't know prior that long. I mean, I started collecting 129, something like that, when the Proteus, you know, when Xavier's son was warping reality and stuff. The very first one I ever saw was 122, but I didn't buy it. I thought the X-Men were kind of weird, and you know, I'm collecting, and but I mean, eventually John Burns stuff was, you know, that was far out, and I started reading it, and I got engaged and got it. I didn't see X-Men for several years on the stands. I'd been collecting at least a couple years before
See,
I even saw an X-Men on my stands.
I mean, the Byrne Claremont X Men was well into its run, and um, already had become popular by the time I ever picked up an issue. I My first X Men issues were like really in the old days. I mean, when before the Beast was a blue furry animal, when he was just a human who kind of was short and
Big
hairy,
hands, big feet.
big, yeah,
Yeah.
and you know they had
Mhm.
the black and yellow costumes on, um, and I think they might have even been reprints
Yeah,
of other
they
stories from
were.
earlier when I
Yeah.
first read
Mhm.
them in the 70s,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't that into the X Men, and so I never got into the X Men. I have a few. I have a few issues. I picked them up occasionally when the cover looked kind of cool,
Mhm.
but X Men was never one of the books that I read. I actually read the Avengers more than I
I
read the
did too.
X Men.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, if I had to do an equivalent, it was the Michael Korvac saga. It was the Korvac saga,
Hmm.
uh, where he could have destroyed the whole Marvel universe, but the Avengers and Avengers didn't even defeat him. Really, he just gave up on living. Didn't
Yeah.
want to live
Yeah.
anymore.
I guess one of the first books from Marvel I ever read was Avengers, and it was, you know, the whole Scarlet Witch and Vision um, love stuff. You know, the
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
the you know, the husband and wife, I guess.
Yep.
That was going on, and then so I was, I read Avengers, and then I read New Defenders. I didn't even read the Defenders. I read the New Defenders when Valkyrie Brunhilde, joined the team. I started picking up Defenders books.
Hellcat and the Beast, and you had Iceman.
Hellcat. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It was like
And then,
Champions 2.0. It had
yeah,
some of the champions in there. It had
yeah.
Angel was in there, I think, too.
Angel
Angel,
was in
Iceman,
there.
and
Yeah,
Beast.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And Gargoyle.
one of their
Gargoyle.
main villains was Moondragon. I remember the bald
Yeah, but she was
woman.
in Avengers, too, around the
Yeah,
Korvac saga,
yeah,
too. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Hey, Slimming.
and the so I read Defenders, and then I occasionally I'd pick up a Fantastic Four, occasionally I'd pick up an X-Men, but I really wasn't that those weren't books I read.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, one thing that I kind of got me going and collecting was the George Perez early run on Avengers. He left
That
it
was
and then
one of that
later
was
came
probably
back.
that's probably where I was the first run on Avengers. Yeah,
Yeah.
his first run
I came right
when
into the
he and Roy
Squadron
Thomas,
Supreme. They
he
were on
and
an
Roy
alternate
Thomas.
Earth.
Yeah, he and Roy
Huh?
Thomas on Avengers, I think, was my first introduction to
Yeah,
Avengers.
I think you predated me on that. Mine was 147, where Jack Kirby was actually doing some of the. Rich Buckler was on 147, but then you got Jack Kirby the next issue. And then finally, with my third issue, I got George Perez cover where he's going up against Orca, I think. But
I don't even remember that. I mean, it's
yeah,
been a long time ago.
yeah. But
Yeah,
it's that was the heyday of Avengers, where you had like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hellcat, and the Beast, which I loved. Um, great combination with them. I thought, with their
yeah.
just costume colors and everything.
Well, and you had
With the team, you can't have like a team that has. I mean, you can like Fantastic Four all blue, but let's face it, it's kind of boring. It's kind of nice if you vary up the costumes.
yeah.
You know,
Well, they had. I mean, I can remember some of the older Avengers books. They had Wonder Man. They
yeah,
had several several versions of Hank Pym. I mean, Hank Pym Yellow Jacket, Hank Pym Giant Man, Hank
yeah,
Pym Ant Man. I mean,
Goliath.
Goliath. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
so every time I turned around, it seemed like Hank Pym was a different superhero.
yeah,
But
yeah,
um, yeah, no, those were that was kind of my event. Avengers was probably my start with Marvel, but I mostly read Conan and read Sonya when I was reading Marvel comics. I wasn't really reading their superhero stuff.
yeah. And you think that was probably because of Roy Thomas and his sort
Yeah,
of retro, you know. Uh
yeah.
Steve
I found
Steve
out.
I'm trying to think of who was writing it at that time, and it's Steve Avengers.
Oh, that's he's a legend too.
Yeah, yeah. I really like his stuff. That really,
I'm
you know, looking at
I'm
the
blanking on
credit,
his name too. I'm blanking on his name too. But yeah, I know
yeah,
who
I
you're
really
talking
like
about.
his writing. I've read his other things that he's worked on too. Uh,
Yeah.
I just can't think of him right now.
But no,
But
I figured out later on that Roy Thomas was somebody who I must have liked his writing because I kept finding his books
gravitating to it,
whether I knew it was him or not. That's who I
yeah,
was finding.
yeah. I liked him on All Star Squadron,
See, at the same time, that book I liked, but I liked Infinity Incorporated, which was
and I
also one of
read
his books.
Infinity Incorporated too. And a young artist by Todd McFarlane got his start on that book.
I'm well aware. Yeah,
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 yeah. I I was like dazzled by his bullshit. Like he said, I was straight out of design in college, and I was trying to dazzle them with my bullshit, my designs, just because to cover up my inadequacies as an artist. He said,
yeah.
"Yeah,
He had some nice page. He had some nice
I
page
looked at
designs.
it and said, "This is something different that hasn't been in comics before."
They were interesting page designs. They really were.
Now I didn't much like the inker. I think it was Tony DeZuniga on that.
Yeah. But DeZuniga was he was a good inker. I mean, I don't think he meshed well with McFarlane's pencils.
No, you're right.
But
I think he did Iraq, Son of Thunder.
Put DeZuniga with John Buscema, and you've got a nice,
Savage sort of Conan and stuff like that. Yeah, it was
absolutely
good on that. But
well,
now he did Iraq, didn't he? Iraq, Son of Thunder.
Yeah, well, the same kind of book.
Did you read that? I read several.
I didn't read Iraq. I read Conan. I read Red Sonja.
I
read Cull.
You want a full run? I'll give you a full. I've got extras. I mean, I bought.
But no, I mean the Filipino artists, DeZuniga, Rudy Nebres, Alfredo Alcala, they were fabulous on those sword and sorcery books.
Yeah. Nebres now did some of his best work over there at Charlton, I think, on those short stories.
Yeah. Well, his best work is in My Tantalizing Adventures, where he draws the first story.
Okay. And you can get that on Fund My Comic right now. Yeah. Yeah. Now, how did that come about? Where you got Rudy Nebres to work for you?
Nebres.
How do you say that? Nebres?
I say Nebres.
Nebres. Okay.
Although when I'm talking to him, I get to say Rudy. But
Rudy. Yeah.
But it's been I haven't talked to him in I haven't talked to him in 20 years. But
okay.
I used to run a fan website for FemForce back in the early days of the internet. Like 95 to 2003, probably. And I would go get art from different artists at shows of FemForce characters, and I'd post it in an art gallery on the fan website. And I met Ed Coots, who's my friend to this day. I just talked to him the other night. And we started working together, and we did some FemForce stories, and we did some other things. And Ed convinced me to, but we would go to shows together. We'd go to the Pittsburgh Comic-Con in Monroeville. We'd go to MegaCon. We went to a couple times. We did some shows together. And because he was from New York City, he and Rudy Nebres saw each other at shows all the time because Rudy Nebres was from New Jersey. And Ed really liked Rudy's inks.
Yeah.
He had a great deal of respect for him. So they were very friendly at shows. And because I was at Ed's table, I became very friendly with him.
Yeah.
And that led to me inquiring when I was going to do my own, when I was going to put out Va 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 Voom back in the early 2000s, if he would be willing to pencil a short story if I were. And he basically said, if you pay my rate, I'm willing to pencil it. So at the time I was single. I had some money. And so I was able to, I paid his rate, and Ed inked it for me. And that's how he ended up drawing that story. But, you'd be surprised if you pay people what they ask to be paid, they will draw artwork for you. Now, sometimes they'll stiff you, so you got to be careful.
Yeah.
But most of the time, 95% of the time, they will, they'll do right by you if they say pay me X amount of money and you pay them X amount of money, they'll provide what they said they were going to do. And so that's how it came about. I became friendly with him at shows through a mutual acquaintance.
So that story was done years and years ago.
2004, probably, maybe 2003.
It just hasn't seen print till now.
It saw print in black and white.
Oh, okay.
In 2004 or 5.
So you're representing it in color.
I'm representing it in color. I had it relettered, and it was only an 8-page story, so it's only one of the 80 pages of stories in the book.
Right. Right.
So there's a lot of new material going along with it. Plus, it's in color. Plus, a lot of the stuff in Tantalizing Adventures is older stories that go together with newer stories, but the older stories have all been colored or reworked. Really, there's only 2 older stories.
Yeah,
one of them had been colored already.
Like you said, relettered, recolored, whatever. Or, I mean, presented in color when it was black and white.
I mean, I guess 24 of the pages are stories that I had that had been printed before, but they haven't been printed in color, and they were relettered. Then the other, whatever that adds up to, 56 pages were new stories. But they all kind of fit together.
To tell the story of your character, of developing the same character.
Yeah. And Rudy's was the first, and the book starts with Rudy's story.
Slimmin says, if comic books ever taught me anything, be careful with your space travel and around nuclear stuff. Yeah.
And spiders. Watch out for spiders.
Yeah, space spiders. I guess they're the worst, huh?
Oh, those radioactive spiders, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, or you could become Spider-Man. But, yeah, or your limbs could rot off. That's generally probably what's going to happen, folks. Don't try this at home. Maybe Spider-Man should come with a disclaimer. Or if you're bitten, maybe it'll have consequences, like your uncle dies, or you get attacked by a guy that thinks he's an octopus. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting the difference in how Marvel Comics characters came to be, and then you go to DC Comics characters. I guess there's some that are, I mean, Barry Allen was a lab accident, right? But Superman was from another planet, came to Earth. Batman was just a normal guy with gadgets, basically.
Right.
Black Canary, Sonic Scream or whatever, but she really started off as more of a crime fighter character. I mean, a lot of the DC characters started off as crime fighter characters.
Yeah. Never paid much attention to the war or
war comics or Western comics.
I did. I mean, I liked the war and Western comics. Yeah, not the war as often, but I'd pick them up. The Sergeant Rock I preferred over Sergeant Fury.
Yeah.
So that was
Joe Kubert, probably.
Joe Kubert, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Unknown Soldier.
Unknown Soldier. I probably had a couple issues.
Mm-hmm.
I look back on them and I appreciate them a lot more now than I probably did when I was a kid.
How about Weird War Tales?
Those were cool.
Yeah.
Those were really cool. And I mean, you know this because we're the same age, but
you're older.
I'm a little older, but back in the 70s, we only had a certain number of TV channels.
Yeah.
And they
NBC,
played,
CBS, ABC,
and especially on the weekends, or they played the same movies.
Yeah.
And they always played more war movies. I mean, A Bridge Too Far, The Dirty Dozen, John Wayne movies, or all these ensemble casts, Where Eagles Dare. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah,
these,
yeah. They'd play that one.
and so we had a steady diet of war movies and westerns.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And the comic books that were war movies and westerns were just part of that diet. So, it's not like I probably read more. It wasn't until the 80s that the fantasy movies came out, the Sword and Sandals books,
I guess
movies.
Star Wars kicking that off.
Yeah, I mean, I
Big
said Star
time.
Wars, but also.
Oh, you mean like Dragon?
Conan came out, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, Red
then you
Sonja,
had Dragon Slayer, and then you had
Dragon Slayer. Yeah.
you know,
Cole.
Cole, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Don't laugh at Cole. Cole's
you
cool.
had the comic books. I think fueled the interest in the Sword and Sandals movies of the '80s because those comic books were big in the '70s.
Oh, Lou Ferrigno and Hercules.
Yeah. In the '60s,
I went to see that.
In the '60s and early '70s, you had a bunch of Western and war comic books, and that's what was on TV too. And so, yeah, I like that stuff, and I would read it, fairly regularly. But I look back on it, and it's now that I look back and go, the artwork was really excellent in some of those old war comic books.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
and these were by
the artwork in the war comic books was better artwork than in the superhero comic books. It was just better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
well,
maybe some of these guys were in the war, and maybe they
were in military, right? Ex-military. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing in the Silver Age. In those Sergeant Rock issues, which was like Star Spangled War, he didn't have his own title till later. It didn't become Sergeant Rock. In the early 80s, they had Remco came out with Sergeant Rock action figures. They didn't go over well, but there were, Sergeant Rock action figures in the early 80s. They came out from Remco. But yeah, they had like manuals, how, the interior of a tank or planes or how a howitzer looks.
Well, that's the other one. You had like Russ Heath was doing Enemy Ace and stuff, and the planes and how the cockpits were drawn, and I mean this was all like technical stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and you don't get that. I mean, they had to do some research for that type of stuff.
People now just kind of wing it, and they're like, well, this is what I think a plane cockpit looks like.
Yeah. Robert Kanigher, he did most of the writing on all those.
Which, I mean, now, what you hear now is, how tyrannical some of these people who were in charge were. Yeah. And, because the editors were the writers, and Kanigher, was very demanding, and he was an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you got to say, in retrospect, you look back at those stories and the artwork that was produced, and those were really classic books.
Yeah. And he wrote more than war stuff, but that's where I first Kanigher, got on my radar was the war stuff.
Well, I think he was best on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, he was better on that. He was okay on when he wrote a Western, he was okay. But the war stuff he was the best on. I think the superhero stuff he was the worst on.
You kind of got to earn.
He was the worst on
like
the superhero stuff.
It's kind of like with comics, it's kind of where you're an artist or a writer or whatever, like Kanigher. You had probably from the old school kind of, he probably came out of journalism, I don't know. But he, we might consider him difficult to work with, pipe smoking, whatever, asshole at the typewriter. But, to Joe Kubert, I mean, who started, 16, 17 years old, and had been around and been a war vet himself. He knew how to handle somebody like Kenninger. And Kenninger
Correct.
probably had respect for him, even though he wasn't really known yet like he would be
Well,
in later
I mean, the
decades.
thing is, I think Kanigher didn't really.
Interact?
I think he looked down on comic books, even though he worked in comic books.
Yeah, okay. As subpar literature?
Yeah, and so, it's one reason why I think, the superhero stuff, which was fantastical,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't good at, and I think it's because he really didn't think it was worth his time. But at least, with a war book or a Western book, there's a certain amount of realism to it, or
Mm-hmm.
possible realism, and he was better on those books. But that's just the opinion of me.
John Q. Public, yeah,
Yeah.
readership. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you probably like Paul Levitz too, because I think Paul Levitz
Yeah, I like Paul
is
Levitz.
kind of like the Roy Thomas of DC Comics. I mean, he brought back after like a 20-year hiatus All Stars squad.
Yeah, I enjoyed Paul Levitz stuff. Yeah.
Mm. He seems like Roy Thomas to be, a fan that liked that stuff, and so he brings back some of that old stuff, Wildcat and other things like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and likes those retro characters. So it seems like Roy Thomas, they always bring back the retro characters that don't get a lot of play,
Yeah. Which is what Bill Black does.
which is what exactly, yeah,
So yeah, that's stuff I've always enjoyed. But
yeah. Well, I do too.
know,
I mean, I enjoyed learning about DC because I was primarily a Marvel guy, but I appreciated those little digests that
mm-hmm.
had a little 100 pagers that had so much of the reprint material in it, and some of those, especially like the year's best, they would always put the obligatory war story, the Jonah Hex story, something I would
Mm-hmm.
always pass up on the stands. But when I read it, I appreciated it for what it was and enjoyed it, because
Yeah.
it was Fargo.
Yeah.
And it exposed me to some of the stuff that I never would been exposed to otherwise,
Well,
So the
I mean,
digests were
and
great for that.
look at a book like Jonah Hex.
Uh-huh.
Now I know that they turned Jonah Hex into a movie, but let's not talk about the Jonah Hex movie.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about the Coen brothers Fargo movie.
Okay.
I think
Fargo movie's great.
I think they read books like Jonah Hex. I think that's where some of their sensibilities come from.
Mm-hmm.
Because that kind of weird, gritty, strange, but it could be real kind of story
Yeah.
is what they're so good at. And so even though Fargo, you can say it's not a Western, but I see a lot of Jonah Hex in Fargo.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of Twilight Zone-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, off, like you
Yeah.
say, Outer Limits. Yeah, it's like kind of like crime mystery type, stuff.
Yeah. Well,
It's I really I can't remember that much about Fargo, but it was quirky. That's a
Yeah.
good word, quirky.
It was quirky. But
I remember the female police officer. Great movie.
yeah, with the Minnesota accent or whatever.
Now,
Or the
didn't
fake-
didn't Fargo, wasn't that a TV show as well?
They
later?
they made it into a I don't know if it's HBO. I think it's HBO. They've had several seasons of Fargo, which are loosely connected
Okay.
and jump back and forth in time frame.
Mhm.
But they've had some good seasons of that.
Okay.
I think
just
they're on
haven't
seasons.
watched
I
any
think
of it.
they've had like 6 seasons, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's up to 6. So I haven't. I don't get HBO anymore, so I can't watch. I haven't, but I used to. So I probably saw the first 3 years. But
the streaming wars, boy, I tell you, I mean, it's changed stuff. I watched on disc when they came out with it, first couple of seasons of Orville, and I don't know, maybe they got season 3 that went to Hulu out on disc, but I haven't looked for it.
I don't know.
Not
I
in a
mean,
while.
my kids and my wife, um, they know if I've been watching TV because it's either on Me TV or it's on Grit TV.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't watch any of this stuff anymore. I watch old Twilight Zone episodes or old Perry Mason episodes or Clara Burnett
Uh-huh.
episodes or
Only thing I'd say about
old
Perry Mason,
John Wayne movies or
only thing I'd
whatever.
say about Perry Mason is it's probably dated now, as far as the laws on the books.
Oh yeah, well that
So,
it was never legitimately the law. I mean,
yeah,
the courtroom stuff is a little ridiculous, but it's still entertaining and it's
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I like the old TV shows that
I
I
do too.
watched in black and white on my black and white TV when I was 7. That's the stuff that I still go back and watch, and I watch John Wayne movies, and I watch Audie Murphy movies, and I watch Roy Rogers movies, and I watch uh, uh,
Hopalong Cassidy?
um, not really. I never was into Hopalong Cassidy,
Yeah, I wasn't either. I've got a
but
few episodes in some Western collections, but other than that, Roy Rogers too. Yeah, it's kind of
yeah, and I never really watched Gene Autry, but I did like Randolph Scott. I like Randolph Scott movies.
yeah.
So
I do too.
I watch
I
those
really
old
like
movies.
Randolph Scott movies.
Yeah,
He's really good.
yeah, yeah. So
He did an
I,
early sci-fi where he goes to Xanadu or something like that. I forget the name of
I
that.
don't even know that. I only know him for his
Early
westerns.
30s,
I only
when
know him
his
for his
career was
westerns.
first starting. He did
Huh.
like a sci-fi hidden land type thing. Need to look it up.
Hmm.
He's good. Yeah. And then Ride the High Country, one of my favorite westerns
That's
with
a
him
great
in it.
western. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
With McCrae.
With Joel
McCrae
McCrea.
did some great stuff in his early career and stuff.
Absolutely.
But by
Yeah.
then, you've got two aging
Well, Ride
B-listing.
the High Country is one of Peckinpah's first
Sam
movies.
Peckinpah's,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Great. He majors on the moment. Slow
Hmm.
paced for
Yeah.
a lot of people nowadays, but uh,
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
he lets you drink it in. He gives you
I
time
can't
to
get my
drink it in.
children to watch the old stuff because every things
Teach
didn't
you
happen.
patience. Dad, why are you doing this to me?
They have no patience to just let a story unfold. They keep it's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
what's he gonna do? Why did he do that? What did he do? It's like, are you not paying attention? I mean, don't give it a give it a 10 minutes. There might be some answers coming your way. I mean, not everything has to be explained right away. So yeah, but yeah, I can't get any of my family to watch these movies with me. I just turn them on, and basically it's antenna TV for me because
yeah. Well, you can't
um,
blame them. I mean, to a certain extent, because that is a slower paced movie, Ride the High Country.
yeah,
But now, if
yeah.
and so is True Grit, like a decade later,
Well,
by
try to
today's standards, but it's a great
try to
movie.
try to get a kid to understand that the first 15 minutes of how the of to, what's the name of the damn movie? Once Upon a Time in the West
Oh, I just watched
by
that.
Sergio Leone. The
It's one
first
of the
15
best.
minutes where there's like 3 lines of dialogue in the whole first 15 minutes, and everything
Hmm.
is just a sound effect of the windmill turning or the
Uh huh.
guys the fly buzzing, and
Uh huh.
and it's just these close-ups of people's faces and sweat, and
Yeah. Yeah. The
that is
close
like the
up
most
becomes a landscape.
yeah, that is the most
Yeah. It's
amazing
genius.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't get my kids to sit through that 15 minutes. Nothing happens until the very end of it.
But that's
I mean,
life, isn't it? I
yeah,
mean, that's life. I mean, that was life at one time. It was slower paced.
absolutely.
Life
Yeah.
was slower paced. Paul, we're going to get out of here, but don't go anywhere, and I'll show you that cover. I think
Oh,
you're
okay.
probably the second person that's actually gets to see it. So
All right. Okay.
uh, everybody else leaves, and it's my fault. I say, you know, don't go anywhere. I think I showed it to Shadow today after the show, but anyway, keep collecting, keep reading good comics, and yeah, I didn't get much drawing in, but
Well, you
a
got
little bit.
something there.
It's
That's
coming along.
something. Yeah.
I've done. Anyway, I don't want to hit share screen. I want to hit end screen, and I can't end this thing unless I take that down. But I'll bring it back up for you here in a minute. Anyway, thanks to Mad Baruch, Slimmin, Flying Feline, Witch's Brew, Dana Marie, Gable Penny Shot, and Paul for coming in, and all of you that didn't chime in. Huzzah, as Gable Penny Shot says, and we'll see you later. This has been a late night draw stream, although not a lot of drawing, but a great conversation with the great Paul Monsky here. Yes, I'll call him great, because why not? Episode 2. Come on
Because
in.
I'm your elder. Because I'm your elder.
That's right. Respect your elders.